Alrighty, welcome. My name is James Burton, and I have with me a special guest, Tamara Ryan.
Hello.
Hello, how are you, Tamara?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for gracing me with your, I was about to say presence, but I guess it's just your voice.
My
You have a very gracious voice.
vocal presence.
Alright, now Tamara is, she's done quite a bit of work. You may recognize her from the Bang Zoom dub of Dragon Ball Super as Android 18.
Yes.
She was in Arc Survival Evolved, a female playable character, and as you have to correct me if I'm pronouncing this correctly, Falan from Magi Adventures of Sinbad?
Yes. That is.
Falan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
I
Falan.
saw that. Falan. Nobody really
Falan.
knows. We just guess. I saw that queued up on my Netflix queue and thought, hey, that looks pretty interesting. And then I started doing some looking up on what you did. And I was like, oh, she was actually in that too, huh?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to give it a watch one of these days.
Yeah, it's good. It's fun.
So I think it was maybe April-ish of this year where Tamara wrote an article for a website called VoiceOver Extra discussing a little bit about marketing and specifically to indie game developers, where to look, some little pointers about how to go about doing that. And I wanted to talk a little bit about something similar today. In this case, it's not just the concept of marketing itself, but it is the demo, the all-important demo.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many people, I think all of us, one way or another, to one degree or another, kind of were the same way. We're so focused on making that demo. We got to get a demo. We got to get a good demo. Oh, we finally got the demo. What do we do now?
Yes.
There's a little bit of mysticism about the enigmatic demo, so we wanted to talk a little bit about that today and see if we can kind of demystify the whole process. You know, not just where do you go, but how do you go about doing it? How should you phrase it? What should you absolutely do? What should you absolutely never do? And we're hoping to clear these things up a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I see so many people who are just like, all right, demo then agent, right? And then I'm like famous. It's like, yeah, not quite.
Demo, agent, money. Those three easy steps, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that much more complicated, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. That's why everybody does it.
Oh, if only it was so easy. But to help break the ice and kind of warm up a little bit, I like to throw a few very random, quick, goofy little questions at people I talk to, interview, / whatever you want to call this. So, beginning. So, Tamara, cats or dogs?
I would have to go with dog because I have a little puppers and he's adorable. At first, I thought cats because I thought, oh, they're easier to take care of. They do their own thing. I don't have to like do as much, but there's nothing like the love of a little pup.
Yeah, same here. Every time you think one is ever gone from your life, you start to think, oh, that's it. I don't think I'm going to get another one. Oh, the dog is cute. I want another one.
Yeah. Cuteness will always penetrate.
It penetrates even the coldest heart. Would you rather spend the rest of your life eating only the thing you find the most delicious or a wide range of foods you think are mediocre?
Now this one's a little difficult because I really, really, really love sushi.
Same here.
Yeah. And there's a good wide variety of sushi, but I would hate to one day not like sushi because I'm sick of it. So I think I would rather go with a wide range of foods, and I would assume there's mediocre sushi out there, so I could still have my sushi. It'll just be mediocre.
Yeah, I think I would go with the same thing.
Yeah.
Alright, you're ready to throw down with a supervillain. He begins to wax on his weird childhood, how genius his plan is, and how foolish you are for trying to stop him. Do you let him finish his epic tale, or do you just punch him while he's distracted?
Oh well, it really depends on the story. You know, how interesting is it?
He put a lot of work into this.
Is he a good storyteller? You know, he might be really captivating. So I might want to know the end of it. Like, what did you do next?
He's a mustache twirler. Let's put it that way.
So yeah, I think If it's interesting enough, I'll let him finish it.
You put a lot of work into it. You could at least let him finish out before he tries to destroy the world. You've got
Yeah.
this under control, right?
Right, exactly.
And maybe one more, a little closer to home. What would be one example of a voice acting dream job of yours? What do you fantasize about the most when you lay your head down on the pillow?
Man. Uh, Being in something on like Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon, like even if it's just a small bit part in one or two episodes, like that would be pretty big. Um, I mean, of course, it. I feel like I'm not even allowed to dream so big as to being something on like Rick and Morty, but that would just blow my little dream mind.
Yeah, you never do know. These are the things that sort of raised us in a little bit. The
Yeah.
things we never wanted to get up earlier than, 11, back in the old days. But, those days we often got up in the mornings to try and watch the early morning Saturday cartoons.
Yeah. Or like okay, being Rogue from X-Men, if I could voice her one day, that would be utterly amazing in every single way.
Yeah, we all have those roles you kind of fantasize about stepping into a little bit.
Yeah.
You never know, could happen.
We'll see. If they ever do like another X-Men thing, I mean, I guess it's possible.
X-Men will never die.
Yeah.
All right, so getting down to the nitty gritty, we're going to start and go ahead and talk about demos.
All right. Demo go.
All right, demo go. Uh, Times have changed a little bit, obviously.
Hmm.
Back in the old days, it was all about you didn't send an email to people, you wrote them a letter. You didn't email your demo to them. You sent them an actual disc, and obviously things have changed since then. So, do you think is there any merit whatsoever to still having your demos on CD and in that physical format, or is that pretty much just kind of a waste of time in this day and age?
Yeah, I'm gonna say 99% waste of time. If you are submitting to agencies, most of them are gonna you're going to want to apply to the agencies that focus a lot on voiceover. There are some agencies that are more on the film and model side, and maybe they'll touch a little bit in voiceover. And in that case, if you look on their instructions for how to submit a demo, some of them will still ask you to physically mail in something. Um, but you don't really see that anymore. It still does happen, and it's for agencies that don't focus a whole lot on voiceover anyways. So, I mean,
Hmm.
you can, if you're if you live in the middle of nowhere and your best shot at getting a local agent is the one that doesn't, that has a small voiceover department, that might be something you have to do. But, it's a case by case scenario then. But
Okay.
don't go out and make like, 50 CDs to hand out to people. That's, yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. I'm always a fan of the strategy that pinches pennies just a little bit more.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's no sense in spending $50, $100, $200 just mass producing CDs when maybe only a few would require it.
Right, exactly.
I do remember one audiobook, I don't know exactly what you would call them, production agency, I don't know exactly what. I did contact them, or rather, I looked up their submission guidelines for sending your demo to them, and they actually did require kind of a physical demo, like a sheet of paper, and it was very, to me, it felt very archaic, but I guess pockets here and there does still exist.
Yeah.
But by and large, from what you're saying, I guess if you had some time and money lying around, it could help, right? But it's not something you want to rely on too much. These days, they've kind of moved on a little bit.
Oh, definitely. I mean, just 8 years ago, I was looking at agents to submit to, and it seemed like um, several of them were requesting physical things to be sent in, and I made CDs, and I had to go get a headshot and like print that out, and I don't feel like that's needed anymore, even just that amount of time. If it is, it's still around, it's very small percentage.
Let's say let's say you finally found someone you're going to contact, and maybe they require a physical demo, maybe they don't. But assuming this one at least has the option to email them and go that way, let's say you finally found a potential client and you want to let them know you're available for work. Now, should you give them your demo right away, or should you kind of introduce yourself and then wait for them to get back to you and ask for your information in your demo?
Well, it depends. If you're doing like an agent thing, uh, you can call them and ask, are they accepting submissions or not? And if they are, then go ahead, email them your demo. Um, if you're doing contacting like indie game developers, production companies, things of that sort, I think it's okay to just cold call them. And I've got a leaf blower outside. I don't know if you can hear that.
It's okay, he adds to the ambiance.
Okay. Of course.
That was just Tamara very cleverly inserting a voice. She's very good at doing two voices at once.
Oh yes, I'm like one of those tribe members that can do weird things. Uh so no, I'm like now I've lost my track.
Leaf blower.
Yes. Uh Train of thought, go back.
Emails, demos, waiting for them to respond or giving them to them straight up.
Oh yes. So if you're cold calling, I think it's fine. Uh Definitely include your demo right away because you want to limit the amount of back and forth as much as possible. So, um, really, your big selling point is your voice, and if they can't hear your voice right away, then there's no way that they can tell that they're even interested. If that makes sense.
Okay. So it sounds like you very definitely want to kind of give them as much info as you can, succinctly, but giving them what you have available so they don't have to reach for it, really.
Give them a lot, but not everything. Because you do want to start a conversation. So if you give them everything, then it could be that you just don't hear back. But if you leave out a little bit of something, then they're like, oh, okay, interesting. What about this? Can you tell me, like, about your rates, sort of thing?
You insert a little bit of mystery.
Yeah, so you want to get a dialogue going. But, yeah, I've had people approach me before, because I'll do casting for stuff sometimes, or, like, I'll work on indie games, and they'll say, hey, I'm a voice actor. Are you guys need a voice? And I'm like, well, where's your demo? Like, where's your website? Why didn't you include that? Like, how do I even know I want to, like, engage with you if I don't think, if I don't know what your skills are?
Right.
Yeah.
Because actors, agents, agencies, managers, they do tend to be very busy people, right? If you don't give them or not everything, but if you don't give them something to go off of up front, they skip you over pretty much, right? Because it's on to the next thing.
Right.
So I think we kind of touched on it a little bit, but on that same subject of emailing a client, and I think emails are going to be kind of a big part of what we're talking about here. Is it a good idea to tell them your rates up front, or kind of the same way, do you want to hold that back or create that mystery?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of back and forth on it. I've sent several batches of emails where I have my rates up front, and then another batch where I don't. And depending on the companies and stuff like that, it can be good. I think I'm going to lean towards not including the rates because sometimes your rate might be too high and then they just don't respond to you at all. But if somebody's responding to you, you get a little bit of a dialogue going, you get kind of a relationship getting built, and then you tell them your rates, then they can tell you, oh, we think that's too high. And then you can start negotiating. But if you give your rates up front and then they don't respond, then there's no dialogue, there's no relationship, there's no conversation happening, and the chance to negotiate is, much smaller percentage. So I would recommend not including your rates. to
Okay.
begin with. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was kind of almost a philosophical point you touched on, where you want to give them a lot, or you want to give them most of the picture, but you don't want to give them everything, because then they either skim you over because they don't have time to read that, or they get scared off, or they take one look at you and think, oh, he's way too expensive for us. There's no way he's going to negotiate for anything lower. Skip.
Right. Yeah. And it's just the whole idea about marketing yourself is about building relationships with people and, starting conversations. And if you give them everything in the first email, then there's no room for relationship building, basically.
Right. So that's kind of the lifeblood of the business, isn't it? It's not just about getting in contact with people and getting the job and getting paid and yeah, that's how it works. On to the next job. It's about the relationship, right? It's about
Yeah,
knowing people.
because you want that person to keep coming back to you, and then you also, hopefully they recommend you to other people that they know, and people are more likely to do that sort of work for you if they like you. If you're not just
Right.
a voice machine, but if you're like a person and a friend, and yeah, and they like you.
I feel like that's an area that a lot of voice actors, and myself included, from time to time, I drop the ball a little bit. They don't always pay attention to is they audition or they tell someone they're ready for work, and then they just kind of disappear, and they may do the job, and that's it. Nothing happens, or nothing else happens. And so it's not. It's you're in it for the long haul. In other words, you're not just there to do one job. You're there to do a job and hopefully open the door to many jobs in the future.
Right, exactly. Which is why, I have to be better about this too. I'm always like making notes for myself about, networking events and stuff like that to do and joining groups. But, friending people on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and just engaging with them on a regular basis on a friendly level, liking their posts, replying to their posts, retweeting, just, you know, having more than a working relationship.
Yeah.
And then that helps you stay top of mind, too. You don't have to say, hey, I'm ready for work. Hey, do you have something for me? Because you're engaging with them on a daily basis and they're already like, oh, yeah, I know Tamara. She, you know.
Oh, yeah, I've got a game that I'm working on. I forgot about Tamara. Maybe I should send a little audition line, ask her to try something out.
Exactly.
Yeah, you ever sometimes just stop what you're doing in the middle of the day and go, oh, I was supposed to contact that guy back. Man.
Mean? Like.
Just I know I do it all the time where I go,
uh,
like, oh, he said something to me like 3 days ago. I was supposed to get back to him. Oh, I've probably let that slip.
yeah, I mean, that definitely is an issue. I have actually use a program called Active Campaign. That's a customer relationship management system. It's CRM is the abbreviated term, but it's something,
CRM.
something for marketing and sales that's super helpful, especially when you're dealing with a lot of different clients and a lot of different emails. It really helps you stay on top of people that you should be staying in touch with. So you'll get like a reminder like, hey, you haven't talked to this person in like a month. Maybe you want to check in with them, or they sent this email to you and you need to respond. And yeah, it's definitely helpful.
That is very definitely an interesting thing to check out. I think we'll definitely have to check that out and link to it
Yes.
in the description slash the blog slash. We'll just link to it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. And I could talk more about that too, like other things that it does
Oh
besides
yeah,
the CRM stuff.
yeah. There are all kinds of subjects that I almost want to delve into here, but we got to stay focused a little bit.
Yes, I don't want to steer us too far away.
Yeah, that's a discussion for another day.
Hmm.
So when you do email someone and you're waiting and they don't respond back, how long should you wait before you email them again, or should you email them again?
Yes, definitely email them again. So in marketing, uh, statistics show that it takes about, oh, what was it? It's something along the lines of 7 to 12 different interactions with somebody before a sale is made. Um, and an interaction can be an email, it could be connecting with them on Facebook, it can be a reply to their post, just it could be them opening a newsletter of yours or reading your blog, something like that, just interacting with you in some way. Um, so definitely more than one email. And what some people say maybe wait 3 weeks before another email, but there's also statistics that show that if they don't open your email within the first week, then they're not going to open it at all. So I've been kind of emailing, I'll send an email, I'll wait a week, I'll send another email, and then I'll wait like another 2 weeks and then send another email.
Okay.
Uh,
So, kind of a 1 to 3 week sweet spot, maybe, where you don't want to do it too soon and become a nuisance, but you don't want to wait so long that they forget about you entirely and that you don't mean anything.
yeah, unless it's an agent like if you submit a demo to an agent, they usually have 1 day a month that they sit down and listen to everything and they go through all the submissions. So don't bother emailing or anything more than, that month. Or
That's an interesting bit of trivia.
yeah, and then if you do send another email, be like, "Hey, did you see it?" but don't submit again. You know, if you're going to resubmit your demo to an agent, make sure it's a new demo or you booked some new awesome national spot or something. And like wait 6 months. 6 months or a year. Yeah.
Okay. Agents, it seems, are a lot more methodical. I'm not sure if I want to say slower, but they're very deliberate about how and where they go about their business.
Yeah, if you don't hear back in a couple months from an agent, then I would just assume that, they're not interested right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm realizing the more I go on, that's a very big part of marketing is to be persistent in some ways, not annoying, but persistent. So
Yes.
it's not just a matter of send them an email and they didn't respond back. I guess I'll never work with them again. It's a matter of making yourself memorable, and if they don't remember you the first time, you try again, you do again to
Yeah.
try and stick in their mind somehow.
Yes, exactly. I usually get a lot of responses to my cold calling emails around my third email, actually.
Hmm. Now, is there a certain way you should or shouldn't title your emails or kind of address uh, studios, developers, agencies, etc.? I usually try to be a little bit funny to an extent, not to waste their time or yank their leg too much, but I kind of like to leave. If I can drop a pun, I'm very big on puns. I I do. I try to make myself memorable somehow. Or is it better to kind of keep it basic, simple, professional, kind of straight to the path, not deviating too much?
I mean, it all depends on who you're marketing to. I mean, with an agent, if you can have the words referred by, uh, impressive name here, that will really help you get that email opened and listened to. Because if you just say, talent submission your name, that's, a big red flag to them that, like, hey, I'm one in a million. You got to
Hmm.
have some sort of leverage, something that makes them like, oh, okay, like this person that I know and familiar with and I respect their work, they're recommending this person. Okay, I'll take a listen. So for an agency, referred by is I would say a must to have in your subject title. Um,
Yeah.
or if you can't get a referred by, then maybe mention a nice big impressive client that you worked with, voice of McDonald's, something like that.
Okay. So you very definitely want to stand out somehow. You're not just a voice in the crowd. Nobody remembers a voice in the crowd, no matter how good that voice is. It's a matter of sticking out in some ways.
Right. Unless it's to a like game developer or animation company, I might actually steer away from something more lighthearted and funny. Uh I think for games and animation and stuff, that's kind of the more creative crowd that would be more receptive to that, and I think funny would be great. But when it
Okay.
like production companies and ad agencies and things of that sort, I would stick more professional. And then, do your research too. Uh Look at that production company, look at a recent thing that they did, and you can even mention in the title like, "Hey, great work on da 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 da," or "Congratulations on the acquisition," or something like that, just to show that you know them, you're familiar with them, you're not just spamming them with, some template. Um, I also try to include, at least their company name or the name of the person that I want to speak with. I go onto their website and I look at the team member page if they have one, and find out the person that I want to be speaking with directly and include their name.
Yeah, so it's very impressive in a lot of ways when you take the time to research who you're talking to. So it doesn't seem very cut and paste, and this is the exact same thing you sent to every other developer. It sounds like something that's actually kind of been personalized to them, that you actually know who they are.
Exactly. And in the body of the email, especially for game developers, you know, I'll I'll include a sentence or two about their game of what I personally really like about it. Show them that, like, hey, not only am I someone that I think you can utilize for your game, I'm personally interested in your game. I think it looks beautiful. I think this mechanic is particularly interesting. I haven't seen that before. Something along those lines.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a very interesting thing to take away. What do you think might be different between marketing to, say, like an indie game developer that you might find on Kickstarter, IndieDB, et cetera, and marketing to Bang Zoom or Funimation or another studio that might have kind of a bigger amount of traction going?
Um, I mean, I think with bigger studios, you probably want to keep your introduction email a little shorter. Um, you know, Something along the lines of, "I'm a full-time voice actor with over 5 years experience. You can hear me and this and this and this. Here are my demos, and here's my website," and then that's it. But then, for like an indie dev, you might have to convince them that voiceover is like a thing they can have because sometimes game developers, it doesn't even really occur to them that they can have voice in their game, or that,
Yeah.
because a lot of the times they don't know how to go about it. They've never done it before. It's kind of like a mysterious
Yeah.
beast to them, the whole
A
process
lot
of it.
of a lot of them are doing it for the first time. It's their debut game. They kind of wrangle the team together, and now what do they do?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I remember seeing a friend of mine kind of lament a little bit that there wasn't really a template for uh, seeking out voice talent for indie games. That a lot of developers just kind of throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, I actually wrote an article geared towards indie game developers about how to find voice actors, like where to post auditions, depending on what their budget is, where they can go, and also a second article about how to write an audition, how to audition and direct voice actors. So I try to be very indie game friendly.
Yeah. Very important subject. That's actually something I really want to delve into, but again, got to stay focused here.
Right.
But yeah, maybe for another discussion, and we could have you on again or get your input on the template, so to speak, of how to put voices in your indie game
Sure, yeah.
or animation or what have you.
Yeah,
Because it's not always immediately clear to the average developer.
exactly.
And kind of on a similar note, do you think there might be any difference between marketing to a developer or a studio, kind of like we were talking about, or marketing to an agency, which has kind of different rules and, like we touched on, kind of a different way of going about things, slower and more deliberate?
Yeah, I think we touched on a lot of this. You know, submitting to an agent, you really go to their website, follow their submission guidelines. Like, just do it. If you can't submit correctly, then they're not, you won't be able to follow directions in an audition. It's just important to
Yeah.
follow directions. Uh, yeah, and with, like I said before, with an agency or a bigger studio, you want to be a lot more precise, to the point, keep it short, keep it sweet, just give them that important information, demos, flashy clients that you've worked for, your experience. But yeah, with an indie game developer, you can massage their ego a little bit more.
You have a little more leeway to do that, huh?
Yeah, and just, be more friendly, personable, more personal. Yeah, just, I know your game. I like it.
You got a good name, a good game. You know what to make it better? My voice.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe not with exactly those words, but the gist of it.
Right.
Alrighty, and we're back. We had a little bit of a technical gaffe where Tamara's technology rebelled against her and joined Skynet.
Blarg.
Yeah, but we're back. So, where were we? We were talking about the differences between marketing to a studio and then to an agency. And the next thing I wanted to ask is, do you think a demo has much more uses if you live in a larger city, a la Los Angeles or New York City, where you have a lot of proximity to studios and companies and other talent? Or are you able to market pretty much just as effectively, or at least to a very big degree, living out in the middle of the sticks, kind of like me?
Well, I mean, you could definitely market from anywhere, and depending on who you're marketing to. If you want to do like anime though, or like AAA games, or something with like Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network, yeah, you're gonna have to be in the cities where they take place. Um, like for example, Bang Zoom. I took classes with them up in San Francisco for a few years, and the director was just pretty much, when are you going to be in LA? Because we can't send you auditions until you live in the LA area, because, not only do they have all the equipment there, you could fly in, you could tell them you can fly in, but the thing is that a lot of the times they'll be like, can you come in tomorrow? Or, crap, schedule change, we need to push it earlier. And it's like, well, I can't change my plane ticket earlier. So it's just, yeah, they just need to make sure that you can come in at a moment's notice if they need you.
Yeah. So you're not going to be in Call of Duty if you live in under a rock, Indiana, like me.
Yeah.
You very definitely have to move if you wanna kind of climb the ladder. There does have to be a change of location somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, mainly for video games and animation. Indie games, of course, you can be anywhere, but like, yeah, the bigger stuff.
Yeah.
Word.
The flow has been disrupted. When you're emailing someone, kind of jumping back a little bit, when you wrote your article on VoiceOver Extra, you mentioned a variety of sites and resources you could use to kind of market yourself and throw your demo out there, like a Kickstarter, IndieDB, and for the life of me, I don't remember what exactly has replaced it, but what was once Steam Greenlight are great ways to find studios and developers and projects that might be able to use your voice. Now, is it wise to contact them pretty much as soon as you find them with your demo and your information, Or should you, as Captain Jack Sparrow says, wait for the opportune moment when a game has just been funded or they've put out a casting call?
So I wouldn't wait till a casting call. I like the Kickstarter campaigns. I go ahead and contact them early on anyways because they are getting a lot of voice actors and they might be listening to demos right then and there, and if they hear someone that they really like, they're going to put you in their back pocket, so when they do get funded, they're like, "Oh, I already talked to this person. I already really like her. I'm going to kind of give her first dibs or something." If they decide that they don't want to go the audition route. Because sometimes, auditioning is work. They don't have the time for that. They might just go with the first person that, they liked and talked to. So, I feel contact them then. And of course, when it comes to Steam, I go to early access now instead of Steam Greenlight. Because they're still in their early stages. They're still in beta, alpha. It's not a finished game yet, so there's still time and opportunities for you to approach them. Yeah, and not all of them are going to do auditions. Some of them haven't even thought about doing an audition. So if you contact them with a great sounding demo and you say, I'm ready to work, they're going to be like, perfect, you sound great. Let's do it.
Yeah, both the blessing and the curse of indie games, there's no real process. Things just sort of happen.
Yeah.
So, wrapping up a little bit here, kind of go to two kind of extreme questions just to kind of pick your brain about it and see where we go. What 3 things should you absolutely never do when marketing your demo or contacting a potential client? What could you do that could just absolutely bomb your chances of having any work with them?
I mean, like in most things, don't be mean, don't be rude, don't be arrogant, don't be pushy.
Sage advice for real life too, not just demos.
Yeah, just, don't be someone that they don't want to work with. I would also...
Nobody likes a prima donna.
Yeah. I would also not be needy. If they don't get back to you in a day, don't email them back right away. Don't stalk them and, find them on Facebook and send them messages. Don't do that.
Yeah. It's crossing the barrier of non-professionalism, going a little bit into creepy territory.
Yeah.
You don't want to look creepy.
No, you do not. And I've forgotten my third.
Notes, words, texts. I think I think you summarized it quite well. Where you don't want to be arrogant, rude, mean, condescending, put yourself on a pedestal. None of that. You want to be someone kind and polite and respectful, courteous to work with. Someone they want to use and come back to.
Yes.
And you do not want to stalk them or be creepy, and you don't want to be so needy and so persistent that you turn into a nuisance.
Exactly.
Now, on the flip side, what 3 things could you do when marketing a demo to boost your chances of being remembered positively and therefore being hired?
Yeah, I know I said it a lot before already, but make it personal. Have show that you know who they are and the work that they've done, and that you have a real interest in it, and just be friendly, courteous. I would also say be really responsive. If you can get back to them right away after they send an email, that shows them in the future that if they have a job for you that might be last minute, that they can probably count on you to get it done because you've been so responsive in the past. So, just...
And I am somewhat guilty as charged there. I usually try and get back to people very quickly as soon as I get the email or the message or what have you. But every so often, something just kind of slips through the cracks.
Oh, definitely. I mean, life gets in the way and everything, so I mean that makes sense. But uh,
Uh,
yeah.
I think we talked a little bit about a site where it kind of keeps you notified. I forgot the name. What was the name of the site where it helps
Uh,
you stay notified of who you've contacted? And
One of them is Active Campaign. There's a bunch of different programs out there for it. Uh, yeah, but that's really helpful.
okay, another one of those things I'll definitely be pestering you for links to.
Yes,
A lot of
yes.
very useful sites out there.
Too many. So, because then you gotta
Sometimes,
like
yeah.
research, like, oh my god, which one do I use? Which one is easier for me?
And some people hate shopping.
Yeah.
The art of comparison, my dad calls it.
Yeah. Sometimes too many options can be bad.
Yep, I think sometimes you just gotta try one and see if it works for you.
Mhm.
Was there anything else? Any kind of closing words you might have for listeners before we hit the road here?
Yeah. So, I know there's like a lot of thought out there that it's just demo agent and then yeah, and then that's it. But if you talk to a lot of non-union talents that are represented by agents, they will most likely tell you that most of their work is not through their agent. Um, they are hitting the pavement. They are looking for work in their own ways. And I mean, especially if you want to make a career out of this and you want to be making a living, you have to rely on yourself um, to make that happen.
Yeah, it's not training, demo, agent, or heck, even no training. Demo, agent, and money in those three easy steps, and you can't rely on your agent, right? They do a fair they do a very large amount of work trying to get you and by extension them and the agency some money. But if your thought process is, well, I'm just gonna get an agent and all the big jobs will start rolling in, it's not quite that simple, right?
Yeah, especially if you're still kind of new to the industry, if you're still a little green in your career, you might not be booking everything that they send your way. When I very first started out, I could be sent, 15, 20 auditions in a week, and I would be super happy if I booked something once every 3 months. It's
Yeah.
it can, yeah, it can be it can vary. Uh, so don't depend on it. Find your own work.
Yeah, it's very definitely an uphill battle. It's not a matter of just going from one string of successful jobs to the next. It's being in it for the long haul. Not planning for how do you get a job tomorrow. It's also how do you get a job next month, next year, next 5 years.
Oh
You have to
yeah.
really you have to plan for the head. Plan for the head. I talk for a living. Yeah, you have to plan ahead and really see where you're going to be down the road. What is going to help you now to get where you want to be later?
It's all about planting seeds. You have to think about the long term of things. If you go to a networking event or something like that, don't think you're going to walk out with two new connections that equal jobs, the next day. Yeah, we touched on this already. It's building relationships. The more relationships you have with people who can, potentially recommend you to somebody else, the better. It's just all about long-term planning. And it's something you got to work on every day. Every day you have to be finding new people to send your demos to, or putting your demos up on a different website, or making connections and nurturing connections. It's a daily practice.
Yeah, this is not a 9 to 5 sort of job. And obviously, every career has its challenges. But I think to some degree, a lot of jobs are you get the job, or maybe you go to college, you get the degree, you get a job, and in a lot of ways, you kind of keep it and you kind of stay there. And even though it's got its challenges and its ups and downs, you got to stick with it. In a way, you're kind of set so long as you can stay on that path. And when you're in the entertainment industry, and in this case, voice acting, you're not just staying on the path, you have to actively create your path as you walk along. It won't make itself for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I say this a lot, and everybody's on their own journey. You know, there is no correct path in voiceover. I mean, there's definitely things that you should be doing, things that are going to help you
Yeah,
and benefit you, and things that will ultimately be better for you if you do them. Uh, but other than that, it's really up to you how you get to your end goal.
there are a lot of crazy stories in this profession about
Yes.
about how they got this job, how they got to this agency, how they moved to this place.
Yeah.
Nobody gets there the same way, but
Nope.
they all have to be proactive in forging that path themselves.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's why it's important too not to play the comparison game, because you don't know what the other person's journey has been like, you know. Maybe somebody had
Yeah,
a six-figure job and, they decided to quit and they had all this money to just invest in the best equipment and training, you know, and 3 months later they're up and running. They just took off because, they had that kind of investment to do that. But, not everybody's going to have that. And everybody's got their own obstacles, and it's just, you don't know what other people's path has been like.
right. Well, I think we've gabbed on quite a bit, even though we're paid to do that. And yeah, I think I told you how long was this interview supposed to be? Some 10, 20, 30 minutes. And I think we've blown well past that. But at the same time, I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Uh, I def- I very definitely learned a lot, and I'd like to think that the people listening to this or kind of reading the bulletin points that will be going on the blog after this will learn a lot as well, because there's a lot of useful information here.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope it's helpful. I certainly enjoyed discussing it. Sorry if
I
I
enjoy,
went off on
no,
tangents.
sometimes the tangents are the best tangents we can take.
Yes.
So if you've listened to this long, God help you, thank you for sticking with us, and I think we'll hopefully have Tamara back for another discussion on some other subject sometime in the future. I think I'd love to have you.
Yeah, I'd love to be back.
So with that, we will wrap it up, and we bid you adieu. Thank you for listening, reading, however you're experiencing this. We thank you for it.
Thank you.
You have a good day, and thank you very much, Tamara, for being with me.
Thank you for having me.